The Mets take the season series from the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it looks like these two teams are on a collision course for a postseason rematch. But what do we learn from this four-game series between the Mets and the Dodgers? Pete Alonso is back to MVP form. 3 homers, 9 RBI in this series as he continues to chase down Darryl Strawberry's all-time Mets home run record. Juan Soto is having an incredible time as a New York Met, bottle flipping with his teammates and on base constantly in this 4-game series. And the Mets put the baseball world on notice, going toe-to-toe with the defending World Series champions. The Mets are now 9-4 against the Dodgers, Cubs, and Phillies combined. Welcome to Meet at the Apple, presented by PC Richard & Son. I'm Jonathan Barron. You can follow me on all the social medias at JMB9191. I am joined once again, I can't get rid of this guy. It's like a bad penny, by Hunter Taubes. Follow him on the socials at Hunter Taubes, in for Vito F. Khaleesi. Once again, and we are here to recap an interesting 4-game series between the New York Mets and the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I am not going to mince words. I'm feeling a little bit chapped about this one, and the Mets split the 4-game series. They win the season series with the Dodgers, so if there is a tie between these two teams in the standings, and home field advantage perhaps in the playoffs comes down to that, the Mets accomplish the goal of winning the season series with LA, so that obviously is something that could come into play later on in the series. And while a lot of good things happen in this series, and there's a lot of good ways to spin what we saw over these 4 games, of course the Mets lose a very, very disappointing ball game, which, Hunter, I think for the first time this year, I might lose a little bit of sleep over a defeat. I know that there's been some annoying losses along the way. You think about the series finale in Minnesota back in the middle of April. You think about some series finales here at Citi Field where the Mets take the first 2 out of 3, the White Sox game recently, the Marlins game back on April 9th. But on Thursday in Los Angeles, the Mets jump out to a 4-0 lead. They let that slip away, and then some defensive woes in the later innings lead to an eventual Michael Conforto go-ahead single, which is
just had to be him.
A little extra salt in the wound. As nice of a guy as Michael is, he was sitting in that seat a couple weekends ago here joining us on the show. Now that's the downside of it, right?
Yeah.
The Mets lose the finale, and you go into the evening, of course, a 4:00 game here on the East Coast. You go into the evening feeling upset. You have to let this one stew for 24 hours because the Mets won't face the Rockies on Friday night until 9:40 Eastern time, or 8:40, excuse me. Still a night game here on the East Coast. Saturday is the 9:40 game. That's the downside. Now, here's the upside. As the Mets and Dodgers got ready to play for the first time on May 23rd, a lot of people were talking about, obviously, the NLCS last year and how the Mets lost that series in 6 and how really all 6 games were blowouts, and the Mets, had their issues with the Dodgers in that series. That LA lineup was relentless. The Mets walked 42 batters, and the Dodgers just, kept scoring. The offense never stopped. That's why they eventually were World Series champions. And the Mets did a really good job, and I think that the Mets have proven for sure that they are one of, if not the best teams in the National League. They can go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers' 2 victories in this series came by the slimmest of margins. A 1-run win in extra innings, 10 innings on Tuesday, and a final at-bat win on Thursday, whereas the Mets' victory on Wednesday was a 6-1 victory. That game was kind of in hand. The Mets led the entire way. And on Monday night, although that game went to extra innings and was a low-scoring game because of 2 solid pitching performances, the Mets led for most of that game as well. In fact, Hunter, I went back and I looked at, of the 38 innings played in this series, how many completed innings did the Mets lead? How many completed innings did the Dodgers lead? And the math says the Mets led for 29 of the 38 innings in this series, and the Dodgers led for 7 of the 38 innings in this series. So the Mets took care of business for the most part. They unfortunately let a couple of games slip away, which sucks. That's glass half empty. This Glass Half Full podcast, as you guys know, Vito knows, right?
I'm well aware.
You listen to Meet at the Apple.
I do.
So Hunter knows. While the bullpen did struggle at times in this series, of course, Huascar Braziban, who's been great, by the way, 30-pitch performance on Monday, helping the Mets earn a victory. Even after the Max Muncy home run on Tuesday night, completed the inning, stopped the bleeding there, got the Mets to extras, gave them a chance in extras. Of course, we know what happened. And Reed Garrett struggles today, but we're not going to say a bad word about Reed Garrett. He's been so good, including his performance on Tuesday night. Second and third, no outs. Gets out of it unscathed. You guys were awake. You guys know what happened. The Mets bullpen let a couple of leads get away. You want to be playing with the lead. And the Mets did just that against a team that many people consider to be the best team in baseball. This Dodger lineup with Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, the three MVPs right at the top. Yes, they have some injuries in the starting rotation. Yes, they have some injuries in the bullpen. But still, the Mets went to Los Angeles, and this is me being the optimist now. I got the negativity out of my system.
Good.
The Mets went to Los Angeles, and they proved, and I think the Dodgers know this, and Dave Roberts talked about this after Wednesday's game, that they are right there with the Dodgers. And by right there, I mean the gap has been closed from what we saw in October of 2024 to what we see right now. And obviously, these two teams could have looked different in October 2025. The trade deadline is, still 6-7 weeks away. Call-ups from AAA will happen. Teams evolve as time goes on. But right now, after we just witnessed this 4-game series, and really this 7-game series, if you would, extending this 4 games back to the May 23rd, 24th, 25th weekend set here at Citi Field a couple weekends ago, the Mets take 4 of the 7, and it could have been more. It's a shame it wasn't more, but I think that Dodger clubhouse and that Dodger front office, Andrew Freeman all the way down, they know, they've been put on notice that this Mets team is right there with them, and that's the positive thing I take away from all that we just witnessed. What do you say about that, Hunter?
Yeah, everyone was talking about how this would be like the first real test. These 7 games over the last 2 weeks, it'd be a really good litmus test for where the Mets stand, how they match up against the Dodgers, and all of the Dodgers wins, granted, awesome team. They did a lot of really good things right also this series. It just so happened it fell the Mets' way in 4 of the 7 games, but all 3 of those Dodgers wins were in the 13th inning, in the 10th inning, and in the 8th inning. So it's not like the Mets got blown out like we saw last year in the
Not
NLCS.
a single blowout. Not a single blowout.
Right? You said the game that was decided most comfortably was Wednesday night's game when the Mets won 6-1, and the Dodgers scored their first run with 1 out in the 9th inning, 2 outs in the 9th inning. So the Mets fans should feel very impressed, very comfortable, very, very excited that this team showed up for their biggest 7 games against their most challenging opponents this year. And, they, for the most part, they took care of business. There are a couple fluky things happen in one game, a couple fluky things happen in another game. We might be talking about Mets taking 5 or 6 of the games.
Right. Right.
They held their own against the Dodgers and then some. And as Mets fans, you should just be very excited, and honestly, they should be proud of this team for how they play. A split in LA is nothing easy to do. They split in LA in 2022.
That's right, they did.
Those 2 games,
Adonis Medina. Shout out Adonis.
Well aware.
Saw that clip all over Twitter.
Just Mets fans taking 4 of 7 from the Dodgers, splitting on the road there. It's all good. No matter how the 4 wins were, no matter how the 3 losses were, it was overall a positive season series against this Los Angeles Dodgers team.
Yes, and of course, like I said at the beginning, you take the last game, the most recent game, the recency bias trickles in to the way that you move on,
of course,
through the night into Friday as you wait for our next taste of Mets baseball.
Right, because I feel like we just lost 2 or 3 with how this loss went.
Of course, frustrating day.
But,
we were sitting together in the office. It was a roller coaster that ended in not the way. But I'll give you another silver. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt
I would
Hunter.
say, yes, it feels
Meet
like...
at the Hunter.
Meet at the Hunter. It might feel like in the moment we might have lost 2 or 3 just because how, it ended today. But taking a step back, 1 4 of 7 on the series in the last 2 weeks. Split in LA on the road, 3 really grueling games, between Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Those were not easy games whatsoever. And, it just so happens that it fell the Dodgers' way in 2 of those games. And that happens. That's baseball, Susan.
Of course. And, the Tuesday loss, Carlos Mendoza's bullpen was hamstrung, right? Edwin Diaz had pitched in consecutive days. And, Dave Roberts also had a tired, burnt-out bullpen. They've got a bunch of injuries in that bullpen as well right now. Tanner Scott's had his issues, as we know. So I think both managers recognize the importance of making the statement. Both managers manage these games like they were playoff games. I know Mendy has said many times that he manages every game like it's a playoff game. He's not one to punt. But, the Mets not having a day off after Sunday, they get on the plane, they fly west to LA, and that game goes extras like we all know. And Edwin Diaz pitches Sunday and Monday, unavailable for Tuesday. That leads to Huáscar Brazoban, who in a perfect scenario might not actually be in that game after the heavy workload he had on Monday night. So that's a tough way to lose for the Mets. But I was just thinking while you were talking, I think that as we've started June here, we've seen a bit of a separation of oil and water in the National League, if you will. I think that many people would agree that 4 of the better teams, if not 4 of the best teams in the National League right now, again, as we wrap up this 4-game series, head into a weekend set in Colorado, are in no particular order: the Mets, the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Phillies. The Mets go 4-3 in the season series against the Dodgers. The Mets took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs, so that's 6-4 right there against the Cubs and Dodgers combined. Then you add the sweep against the Phillies in. The Mets are 9-4 in their 13 games against the Phillies, Cubs, and Dodgers. That's what you want.
Yeah, you can't draw it up any better. They've won each of those series. Obviously split with the Dodgers. If you win the season series,
right?
It's you can't ask for anything else. They play the Phillies in 2 or 3 weeks in Philly. They don't play Chicago until the last road
September,
trip
in September
of the season. So the fact that we came into this season with the Mets feeling good and positive, it's like, hey, we are one of the best teams in the National League. For them to show it and show up against the best teams in the National League, it's just very encouraging, no matter what the results of today were. It's a very encouraging couple of games. What was it, 15 games that you just laid out? Their record?
13. 9-4 against in those 13 games against the Cubs.
It's very
Dodgers,
encouraging that they not only it's one thing to handle the good teams, it's another thing to beat the good teams.
Right.
And beat the teams that you feel are going to be your strongest competition throughout the season and possibly even October.
Right. So that's a positive way of looking at it. And there were a lot of positive individual performances in this series. And I think it's appropriate to start with the starting pitching. And it all started with Paul Blackburn, who was inserted into the rotation, makes his first start of the year, and he gives the Mets 5 scoreless innings, sets them on their way to a Game 1 victory. Most intriguing thing for me for Paul Blackburn is he did not throw a single four-seam fastball in this outing. It was cutters, it was changeups, and he was very effective. So a different look from Paul Blackburn, who eliminated that four-seam fastball. We've seen Jeremy Hefner do this with pitchers, encouraging guys to, hey, if that's a pitch that's not working for you, let's work on something else that will work. So for Paul Blackburn on Monday night, it was a great, dazzling effort. Sounds like he'll be used predominantly out of the bullpen. He said as much in his post-game press conference, but he did a great job setting the tone in this series with 5 scoreless. On Tuesday night, Tyler McGill took the mound for the Mets, and there were many people online who the Twitter fingers were hot and heavy after the first inning.
They're so angry. Okay, let the game happen.
Look, I get it.
I do too.
I understand.
I do too. It's very easy to be irrational very quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't mean to cut you off. That was
second time.
It's my bad. That was a really gutsy performance by Tyler McGill.
Oh, of course.
It was really impressive what he was able to do. We know how good that lineup is. We know he, didn't got off to a bad start in the first inning. Just put it out there blatantly. He was not sharp in the first inning. For him to get through 6 innings,
he completed 6 innings.
To complete 6 innings,
I believe he retired 16 of the last 17 he faced after the first inning.
Just really impressive stuff by him to do it against arguably the best lineup in the league.
And the slider was the weapon of choice for Tyler McGill. 13 whiffs on 15 swings against the slider. And, the mental fortitude it takes to go back to the dugout after the first inning. The Mets give him a lead early. Pete Alonso has the early first inning RBI single. And Tyler gives up a 4 spot in the first inning, goes back to the dugout, has to think about it. And that's a tough thing to do. And he goes back out. And as we mentioned, he was dominant, just shut the Dodgers down from there, gave his team a chance to win. Obviously, Soto hits the 2-run home run against Kershaw. The Mets scratch out 2 more against Kershaw, I believe in the 4th or 5th inning of that game. The Mets hold the lead all the way up until the 9th inning. Max Muncy and his new goggles fighting the astigmatism. He has a 2-homer game. And the Mets, of course, fall in extra innings. But shout out Tyler McGill for really an impressive, gutsy outing. On Wednesday, it was Griffin Canning back in Los Angeles. Of course, a UCLA guy who spent the first many years of his major league career in Orange County, pitching for the Angels. And Griffin Canning did something that not many guys have done since the start of last season. He became just the 5th visiting pitcher to throw at least 6 scoreless innings at Dodger Stadium since the start of 2024. He became the first Met to throw 6 scoreless innings at Dodger Stadium since Jacob deGrom in Game 1 of the 2015 NLDS. So Griffin Canning was spectacular. And there was one at-bat in particular that I think really, really stands out. 5th inning, 2 outs, facing Shohei Ohtani.
Former teammate,
former rotation mate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the numbers, as is the case for many pitchers, 3rd time through, pitchers start to struggle, especially this Dodger lineup. When you start 3rd time through, it's the 3 MVPs at the top of the lineup. And Carlos Mendoza needed some depth from his starting pitcher on Wednesday, similar to the Saturday against the Dodgers here at Citi Field after the 13-inning game, where David Peterson gave him 7 2/3, matching the longest start of his career. Griffin Canning gave a similar outing to Carlos Mendoza by completing 6 innings for the 3rd time this year. And in this at-bat against Shohei Ohtani, he went slider, 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 slider. First 4 pitches, 3-1 count. Comes back with another backdoor slider, gets a called strike, might have been a little bit off the plate, gets the call. Full count. First 5 pitches of the at-bat, 5 sliders. And he was not throwing his slider to lefties much. It's a pitch he really throws to righties way more than lefties. He threw it to Max Muncy a couple times trying to get him backdoor. What's he going to do in the full count? He freezes Ohtani with a perfectly located changeup on the inner half. Ohtani looked bamboozled by the pitch selection, and Canning gets through the 5th inning, and eventually he gets through the 6th inning. No runs allowed. What an outing by Griffin Canning, who continues to be another one of the reclamation projects of this Mets front office, of Jeremy Hefner's. You talk about Luis Severino and the sinker improvements he made. You talk about Sean Manaea lowering the arm slot last year and the market improvement, especially in July, moving forward. Griffin Canning this year, another example of the Mets bringing guys in and bringing out the best of their abilities. And for Griffin Canning going into Dodger Stadium, facing that lineup, what an outing for Griffin Canning.
He's got a sub-3 ERA
He does.
across 12 starts.
He does. The Mets are 9-3 in those 12 starts made by Canning this year.
He's been so good for this team for the entire year. He's throws strikes, he gets swings and misses, he gets sweet contact, and it was really his best start of the year. Allowed 3 hits over 6 shutout innings, striking out 7 against the Dodgers.
Just one walk.
He was filling up the zone. He was ahead in counts. He was moving pitches around. He was locating pitches. He just looked so sharp. And it was just his best start of the year. It was impressive for a guy like Griffin Canning, who not many people may have had the highest expectations for this year, to go in and dominate the Dominate. He dominated them. Six shutout innings against the best lineup in baseball with 7 strikeouts. He dominated them in their home stadium. It was just really impressive. Good for him. And, hopefully he keeps this rolling because it seems very sustainable with the way he's pitching.
He was throwing the hardest he's thrown all season. He threw his 2 fastest pitches of the season.
He's all fired up
in that first inning, 96.6 miles an hour. Locating that 4-seam fastball, the location so important of that pitch for Canning. When he gets out at the top of the strike zone, it is a tough pitch to hit, and he changes eye levels incredibly well. Got a couple of check swing strike threes, I should say. Got one against Mookie Betts there in the first inning. So Canning was splendid. And then you look at Thursday and David Peterson's performance. Let's not understate the job done by David Peterson, who was not his sharpest all day long, but he gutted out 7 tough innings. Made Shohei Ohtani once again after he really gave Ohtani fits here at Citi Field on May 24th. Did it once again. Struck out Ohtani twice on Thursday. That's now 5 strikeouts this season for Peterson against Shohei Ohtani. Tied with Eric Miller of the Giants for the most strikeouts of Shohei Ohtani going back to the start of 2024. I thought about this last night, and I don't know, obviously, this is a ways away, but if and when the Mets are in the playoffs and the Mets and Dodgers do reconvene and meet again in the postseason, and I know that the baseball world would love that, of course, East Coast, West Coast, especially, with how evenly matched these teams seem to be, and everyone loves a rematch. How do the Mets deploy David Peterson? Because we saw how valuable he was in the bullpen last year. And it's not a knock on him at all. He might just be incredibly, there's a lot of ways that you go about how you break down, do you try to have a starting pitcher go 5 and have a guy come out of the bullpen for 2 or 3 and bridge to Edwin Diaz? That's a strategy a lot of teams that have won the World Series have used. The Kansas City Royals won a World Series by length out of the bullpen. So
don't remind me.
Sorry. We'll see. We'll see how the Mets choose to go about that. That's way down the road. David Peterson also now has a 2.80 ERA, and a couple episodes ago we pointed out the top 10 ERA in baseball going back to the start of last year. He kept that rolling on Thursday. So the Mets starting pitching was fantastic in this series. All 4 guys the Mets are out there did their jobs, and there were some great offensive performances as well. And it all starts with Pete Alonso, who 2 homers on Wednesday night and had another 5 RBI on Wednesday night, the 11th 5 RBI game of his career. Hit a first pitch home run in the first inning, gives the Mets a 3-0 lead, unloads on a 3-run homer, a 447-foot blast in the 8th inning. That really kind of took the starch out of that game. Edwin Diaz was up in the bullpen because the Dodgers were sending 1, 2, 3 up to the plate in the bottom of the 8th inning. The second that ball landed in the bleachers out there at Chavez Ravine, Edwin Diaz sat down.
I'm good.
Sat right down, of course. I'm sure Carlos Mendoza didn't want to have to use Edwin Diaz, and he sat down. And Jose Castillo, by the way, did a fantastic job, pitched out of trouble, gave the Mets a couple scoreless innings. Now 6 scoreless appearances since coming over for Jose Castillo. Another win by this front office, claiming him from Arizona, putting him right on the 40-man roster, right on the active roster. He's been fantastic for the Mets. Pete Alonso now, after his heroics, his first inning home run on Thursday as well. First of all, loves playing at Dodger Stadium.
Loves it.
10 home runs in 22 career games at Dodger Stadium. He is now 1 home run shy of tying David Wright for second place on the Mets all-time home runs list. And at the moment of this recording, he leads Major League Baseball in RBI, 1 more than Rafael Devers. So a great series for Pete Alonso, who is he's looking like the guy we saw in April, where he's not chasing it all. He's locked in. I love the opposite field swing. And here's a fun note for you. I tweeted this on Wednesday night.
Sure.
I think a lot of this has to do with the great 1-2 ahead of ahead of Pete Alonso in the lineup, and a lot of it is the Juan Soto effect. Pete Alonso has now hit 15 home runs this year. 10 of those home runs have come with runners on base. Last year, Pete Alonso hit just 14 home runs with runners on base.
And he hit 34 home. He hit so many solo home runs last year. And the fact that there's constantly runners on base throughout the entire lineup, everyone's getting on base. The fact that he's getting on base, he's driving in runs, yes, hitting the balls into the gaps, but he's hitting these 2-3-run homers. It's just so much more important because they are game changers. He is a guy who can change games with one swing of that bat.
Did it on Sunday against the Rockies, 3-run home run, turned the momentum in that game around.
Mm-hmm. He did it. He did it twice. Not twice on Wednesday, but the first inning homer, it totally sets up. You have a 3-0 lead before the Dodgers grab their bats. Mm-hmm. It's just so important to get those big innings, get those big hits, and Pete Alonso has been doing it all year. It's really nice, like you said. We know the entire offense sort of took a bit of a downturn in mid-May. The fact that they're very clearly out of that right now, they're hitting they're hitting for power, they're hitting balls into the gap, they're hitting homers. It's very encouraging, and Pete Alonso's at the forefront of that.
Yeah, and he made the Dodgers pay in the first inning on Wednesday for that error early. 1-4 in the Mets lineup on Wednesday, scored all 6 runs and drove in all 6 runs. Alonso obviously at the forefront of that with his 5 RBI, but it was Lindor, it was Nimmo, it was Soto, and it was Alonso. Soto walking 3 times on Wednesday, went to the plate 4 times, had a full count in all 4 plate appearances. We know the shuffle was back on Wednesday night. He was shuffling against Tony Gonsolin, who did a really good job. Gonsolin had 17 swings and misses. The Mets jumped on him in the first inning. And we talked about Griffin Canning. He did the rest of that from there. So a huge night for Pete Alonso, a huge series for Pete Alonso, who also likes hitting in Colorado. The Mets obviously headed to Coors Field next. Pete Alonso, we'll see if he ties or maybe even surpasses David Wright for second place on the Mets all-time home runs list. There's another milestone upcoming as well. Juan Soto was on base plenty this series, drew 6 walks, had a couple hits. The big home run he hit against Clayton Kershaw in Game 2 of the series, had a double on Monday night. Juan Soto now 15 hits away from 1,000 for his big league career. Still not even 27 years old. So you talk about guys who could eventually reach 3,000 hits among active players. One of them was playing first base for the Dodgers in this series, Freddie Freeman. I think he'll get there. Not too many other guys in baseball really are on track to get to 1,000. Obviously, you need longevity, you need health. But Juan Soto could potentially reach 1,000 on the next Mets homestand. That would be really nice. But just putting it out there that milestone is in reach for Soto, who had a really good series on base, like we talked about, getting on base frequently. Interesting move for Dave Roberts to issue him the free pass on Thursday, choose to pitch to Pete Alonso. Alonso obviously made Dave Roberts pay, picking up the single, another RBI. But for Juan Soto, it looks like the confidence is back. I saw Harold Reynolds do a breakdown after Sunday, after the weekend, really, against the Rockies. Of course, Soto homered on Saturday and Sunday. And Soto's homer on Sunday, he did his Reggie Jackson impression because he was on a knee when the follow-through of the swing came. The same thing was the case with the home run he hit against Clayton Kershaw. And Harold did a side-by-side. Soto on opening day here at Citi Field and Soto on Sunday at Citi Field. And this continued into Los Angeles, where he is lower to the ground. He is crouching a little bit more. He was a little bit more upright in his batting stance. And he looks more like the guy we saw against, let's say, the Guardians in the ALCS in 2024, or throughout the 2024 season, crouched more, really developing and providing power from his lower body. And the home run he hit against Clayton Kershaw, he also had a knee on the ground, or just about scraping the ground with his knee. So Juan Soto's mechanics are looking like the guy that we have been very used to seeing, unfortunately, for a while on the wrong side of that. Now, fortunately, on the right side of that. But Juan Soto, between the batting stance looking more like the Soto we all know and love, and of course the confidence with him shuffling, staring down pitchers, giving that body impression like, I got you, you are not winning this battle. And then, of course, what I deem to be the PC Richard electric moment of the series, the Mets having a lot of fun and sending shockwaves around the internet. Juan Soto, Luis Angel Acuna rocking, I think it was Francisco Alvarez's mask. Jose Siri was there. Francisco Alvarez was in the frame. SNY did a great job. Who else was there?
Marte was there.
Starling Marte. We'll talk about him in a moment. But the bottle flip heard around the world. Usually it's bat flips we talk about when it comes to baseball games. Here, it was bottle flips. A lot of guys trying to get that Dasani water bottle to sit upright. I don't think there was enough water in the bottle, first of all. I think that's a mechanical issue we got to talk about. We could break it down. But Juan Soto comes in, flips, bang, exit stage left, a little curtain call right out. But the guys were having fun in the dugout on Wednesday, and Juan Soto was a big part of that. And it was so much fun to see. Acuna with the mask and the bottle flipping, and Soto obviously being the guy to get it done after a big couple of games there. The PC Richard and Son electric moment of the series for the first time in Meet at the Apple history. Not a baseball moment, but a bottle flipping moment.
It was a lot of fun. I was sitting on my couch, half asleep, laughing, giggling to myself because these are Major League Baseball players. None of them could figure out how to land it. And then, of course, Juan Soto comes in and figures out how to land it. Ronny Mauricio didn't want to give it up. He had 6 or 7 tries in a row. Starling Marte didn't want to give it up. He had a bunch of tries in a row. It's funny. They were all trying to move the water around, fix the bottle, clean off the steps. I'm like, this is what we did in the cafeteria in 7th grade.
This is what we do in the Coke Corner sometimes at the end of the 7th inning.
Sure. Yeah, that too.
Some people are saying that the Mets in-game show is a trendsetter here.
They could say that.
That's what some people are saying.
Yeah, no, totally.
Many people are saying that.
Many people.
I'm saying that.
John's saying it.
I'm saying it.
I think it was a lot of fun.
Of course it was a lot of fun.
And it was a lot of fun to see Soto smiling and laughing. And, it's a lot of really good personalities in that clubhouse, a lot of fun personalities. Just see them all, it's late nights for them too. It's long games for them too. And a bunch of those guys weren't playing. They're like, well, we're up 6-0. Let's get out of here. But let's do something stupid and fun while none of us are going to play. So just a lot of fun. Just sitting giggling to myself at midnight, 12:30.
It was later. Yeah, it was almost 1. It was pushing 1 o'clock.
It was a little delirious. I was up the last 2 nights working for Monday and Tuesday, so
yeah,
not running on a lot of sleep. Can't imagine any of them were either. So
yeah, it was pushing 1 a.m. But a really fun moment there. Great job by SNY cameras capturing that and going picture in picture, which was great as well. You mentioned Starling Marte, another guy that had a great series for the Mets in Los Angeles, 4 for 10, the home run, on Thursday, the double on Thursday. And a kind of unfortunate part about the Tuesday loss was Starling Marte hit a ball the other way that came 3 centimeters away from striking or grazing the foul pole down the right field line at Dodger Stadium, which would have given the Mets insurance. Who knows if the Dodgers are able to overcome a 2-run deficit in the 9th inning instead of the 1-run deficit. Luis Torrens also hit a ball 100.9 off the bat, 29 degrees launch angle. That ball is usually gone. Of course, the marine layer there at night at Dodger Stadium, thick air, hard to. If you don't get it over the marine layer like Max Muncy did, balls just go to die, especially left center field, right center field there at Dodger Stadium. So the Mets, of course, don't get that insurance. But Starling Marte had a great series. Talked about him with Carlos Mendoza when Mendy was in here on Sunday. Talked about him after with you about the impact that we know Starling Marte is going to have, that he is healthy. He is playing full, free, and easy. And he certainly looked that way at Dodger Stadium here. Look forward to seeing that. Marte is a guy that has absolutely killed the Rockies throughout his career. We remember the emotional home run he hit back in 2022 at Coors Field. So looking forward to seeing Starling Marte continue to get it done for the Mets. Now, of course, one unfortunate part of this 4-game series was the injury suffered by Francisco Lindor, who was hit by a pitch on the right foot by Tony Gonsolin in the first inning on Wednesday night. And on Thursday, Francisco revealed that he has a fractured pinky toe. Mookie Betts, we just saw in this series, he has a fractured toe. He is playing, so it's not necessarily a long-term injury. We don't know when Francisco will be back in the lineup, but with Lindor out, Mendy moves Brandon Nimmo to number 1 in the lineup, and Starling Marte goes to the 2-hole. Soto stays at 3. He's had a lot of success since that move was made. So Marte could continue to get chances. Landon Knack, the righty, was on the bump for the Dodgers on Thursday, but Marte was still hitting second for the Mets. So we'll see if that continues. And of course, want to really quickly talk about Ronny Mauricio, who, how great was it to see Ronny Mauricio back on a big league field? I know the cameras caught him on Tuesday pregame during the anthem, getting a little emotional. Such a long road back. I mean, it's been a while since he suffered that injury back in, what was it, December 2023,
December of 23, I think.
playing for Lycée in Lee Dome. And, you know, a torn ACL could be 8-9 months for some athletes, but it's not always a straightforward path to recovery, especially with a knee injury, scar tissue that builds up. And then you really got to strengthen that leg. Ronnie was not using that leg for so long. You don't want to put him out there and put him in a compromised position. So for him to be back, especially after his stint in AAA, where he was just tearing the cover off the ball, no one could get him out in the International League. Of course, Mark Vientos hits the injured list, and I think it was a pretty obvious decision who the Mets were going to call up to replace Vientos. And Ronny Mauricio looked really good at third base, especially that rundown play on Tuesday night where he fielded. He made sure he had the ball in his glove, made a good, strong throw to home. Mets cut down the run. That's when that led to Reed Garrett getting out of that second and third no-outs jam. So great to see Ronny Mauricio back. I think Ronny Mauricio is a real contender to be an under-the-radar difference maker for this Mets team, especially in the second half. You know, it's tough to get back to the big leagues, and yes, he didn't have a hit. Looking for his first hit still, but I looked it up last night. Ronny Mauricio is still the owner of the hardest batted ball by a member of the New York Mets since the start of the 2023 season. That, of course, was the first major league hit he had here on September 1st. I think it was against the Mariners, that double over the head of Teoscar Hernandez. That's what Ronny Mauricio does. And during his time in AAA and the minors on his rehab stint, before he came up, he was running a walk rate of about 11%, which was an improvement from what we have seen from Ronny Mauricio to this point in his big league career. Perhaps a bit over anxious, especially back in the big leagues, but big things to come from Ronny Mauricio. He is going to make an impact here. I am really excited about Ronny Mauricio being back, and overall, just so happy and great to see him back on a big league diamond.
Yeah, just really excited for him. He's such a dynamic player, such a strong, good, physical athlete. Runs well. We know he hits the ball hard. We know he plays a pretty good third base, second base. He's just a really good athlete, and inject what he brings to the table into this team. He'll steal some bases. He'll hit some homers. We haven't seen it yet. It's only been 2 games that he's played, but just overall, very excited that he's back. Very excited that he looks healthy. That he could, that he's up to major league speed. Obviously, wishing him the best health, and just very excited for him that he's back. That he made this full recovery. You said it. It's not all linear. No recovery is the same. The fact that it took him this long and he was that emotional Tuesday night before the game was a really special moment. And, you know, I think he'll be a real impact player for this team going forward.
And of course, Ronnie's still very young, like Brett Beatty, like Luis Angel Acuna, like Francisco Alvarez, who we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the 2-hit night on Monday and the huge hit he had in extra innings to give the Mets the lead. The Mets, of course, would tack on an insurance run there that made an impact. So a lot of young players here, a lot of veteran players. It's a nice cohesion, and the Mets have a lot in the minor league system. I know, Jonah Tong made some waves here this week. 5 perfect innings, I believe, 11 strikeouts for the Rumble Ponies. 5 perfect or 5 hitless innings?
No hit.
5. No, that's right. He walked 3. Jonah Tong continues to be one of the best pitchers across minor league baseball. Nolan McLean had another solid outing for AAA Syracuse. He continues to thrive since the promotion to AAA. Yeah. ERA under 3, and I think his first 4 outings for the Syracuse Mets. So lots to like. I know you gave the incredible stat last week. Mets affiliates went 21-2. And they've continued that into this week. So there's a lot to like.
Yeah.
Of course, like we said at the top of the episode, the Mets split in LA. And I think I don't want to say bittersweet split in LA. You really can't let the last game impact the way you perceive fully what happened in this 4-game series. I think we've done a good job laying out a ton of positives we can take away from this 4-game series. The Mets made the Dodgers earn every 90 feet, every inch of anything LA had to celebrate in this series came tough for this Los Angeles Dodgers team. The Mets put good at-bats together. The pitching did a great job. The Mets made Ohtani look really bad at times. The Mets did a great job with Shohei Ohtani all season series. I think Ohtani had 6 or 7 hits, a lot of singles. The 2 home runs were solo home runs, punched him out a whole lot of times. We talked about the combined numbers for Ohtani and Judge, the 2024 AL and NL MVPs. Freddie Freeman didn't really do a whole lot. Even the big hit he had was, possibly could have been caught a fly ball that fell in Dodger Stadium. Ball got lost. Brandon Nimmo got a little turned around. And then he bounced back, by the way, the next night. And he hit a home run on Thursday. So, we talked to Brandon Nimmo about a month ago. We asked him how the team recovers from tough losses. And again, a tough, frustrating loss here. And Brandon said, for the first 30 minutes after a game, you kind of think about what you did wrong and how you can improve and what you learned and how we can make sure it never happens again. And Ted Lasso it. Memory like a goldfish. Flush it. Get on the plane. The Mets will fly to Colorado. Could be on the plane already. And a 3-game series looming for the Mets in Colorado. Kodai Senga going on Friday for the Mets. Clay Holmes on Saturday. And it'll be Tyler McGill going for the Mets on Sunday. After they sweep the Rockies last weekend, they have 3 more games with the Colorado Rockies before they will enjoy a much-needed off day on Monday. Everyone gets a chance to reset. We'll see if Francisco Lindor plays it all in Colorado or if he is back in the lineup by the time the Mets return home. But all in all, I would say an encouraging 4-game series in Los Angeles. The Mets and the Dodgers are neck and neck in terms of talent, in terms of who the better team is. I'm not going to make any proclamations right now. There's still a lot of baseball to be played. But as we go along in a baseball season, we continue to learn things about a team. And one thing we learned about the 2024 Mets was their ability to take a punch and bounce back. And that's a characteristic that has carried through the offseason into 2025. The Mets have shown their ability to bounce back and not allow things to spiral out of control. Their longest losing streak of the season is 3. They were the last team to lose 3 consecutive games when the sky was falling after games 1 and 2 in Boston. The Mets found a way to eke out a victory against Garrett Crochet in the finale of that series before coming home to Citi Field and taking 2 of 3 from the Dodgers and 2 of 3 from the White Sox and sweeping the Rockies, going 7-2 on the last homestand. Going 2-2 in Los Angeles, a place that the Dodgers have had a lot of success. And if you want to feel bad on your luck, how about this? Try this on for size. The Los Angeles Dodgers entering Thursday, their last 30 games. Big bad Dodgers, big payroll, tons of star power. 15-15 in their last 30 games. The Philadelphia Phillies, who had a bit of a, I don't want to say easy stretch in their schedule because there are no easy stretches in Major League Baseball. Everyone's trying to win. Every team has tons of talent. These are the best of the best. We say it all the time here on the show. But the Phillies took advantage of not playing the best teams in baseball. They've stumbled out some tough times in Philadelphia. It ain't pretty right now on WIP. these are the ups and downs of a baseball season. That is how it goes. The Mets had a little bit of a skid where at times the defense had eluded them. We know they've had their issues with hitting with runners in scoring position. That reared its ugly head again on Thursday. But that wasn't the case on Wednesday when Pete Alonso hit a big 3-run home run with first and second no out in the 8th inning to put that game away, or when the Mets put a 3-spot up in the first inning. After Wednesday, the Mets had scored in the first inning in 5 of their last 6 games. They didn't score in the first inning on Thursday. So now it's 5 of their last 7. But the Mets have done a good job jumping out, punching opponents in the face, jumping on opposing starting pitchers, and putting the pressure on the other team as well. That's why the Mets led for so many innings in this 4-game series against the Dodgers. But like I said, a lot to like from this 4-game series. Unfortunately, the Mets split after they let one get away on Thursday. On to Colorado. Final thoughts, Hunter.
I was going to ask you, what's your favorite Mets moment at Coors Field? Because I feel like...
I got a couple.
Okay. Because I feel like there's no normal games there.
I've got a couple.
Okay, please.
Couple come to mind.
Okay.
Brandon Nimmo's inside the park home run in June of 2018.
Okay.
I think he had a 2-homer game. Scott Harrison hit for the Cycle in Colorado in 2012.
Sure.
Carlos Beltran's 3-homer game in Colorado in, I think it was May of 2011. It was May of 2011. Yoenis Cespedes 3-homer game in August 2011, or 2015, excuse me. In that same series, Logan Verrett threw 8 scoreless against the Rockies.
He sure did.
He certainly did. I think that was the Sunday game of that series. What else do I like about Colorado? Seth Lugo's hit in 2019.
That's a good one.
Seth Lugo had an RBI single in 2019. That was a fun one. What about you?
I like when Joely Rodriguez was sitting up in the forest.
You like that one?
That's funny to me.
So you're going for the humor.
Well, I mean,
I'm just rattling off Mets-Rockies moments from the years.
The Cespedes, yeah, Joel Rodriguez. That's a good one to me. Didn't Iglesias have an awesome play there last year, coming home early in the game? I'll tell you my least favorite Mets moment at Coors Field.
Okay.
How's about last year when the ball trickled towards the Mets dugout and the ball just rolled in and the netting wasn't attached?
Right.
I was just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
That's my least favorite moment.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
There's so many wacky games there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm excited to watch Juan Soto and Pete Alonso hit there this weekend.
Yeah, look,
that'll be fun.
I'm rooting for Juan Soto to record hit 1,000 here at Citi Field. Like I mentioned earlier, he's 15 away.
What if he has 15 hits this weekend? Goes 5 for 5 each of the 3 games.
I'll be happy. It'll give us good fodder for Sunday's episode.
Yeah.
We'll have a really clickbaity title about it.
Sure.
I'm sure. But I would sign for 14 or maybe even 13. So he needs maybe 2 over the 6-game series here against the Nationals and Rays. I'd love for Mets fans to shower him in the love. So we'll see how it all works out. Obviously, Juan Soto's going up to the plate to hit. He's aggressive up there, man. Like early on in his Mets tenure, he was much more passive, I think. He is going up there looking for his pitch to hit. And I think that has a lot to do with really the turnaround we've seen. And I think overall the confidence he's been exuding, especially in this 4-game series against the Dodgers and previously the 3-game series against the Colorado Rockies. So up next for the Mets, it is the Colorado Rockies. 8:40 on Friday, 9:40 on Saturday, which I do not love. I say it here a few times. Some people have questioned me. I'm unapologetic. That's past my bedtime, man. I don't know. This series took a bite out of me. I'll be honest. Monday, I missed the first 8 innings. I fell asleep at 9. I woke up at 12:30, and I made the cardinal sin of checking my phone. I saw it was 2-1 in the 8th inning, and I was like, I can't go back to sleep. That was about 12:30. I was up till about 2:30. Mets won. That was cool. I got all excited, all giddy. The blue light just dousing these eyeballs. I was up, and it impacted my morning plans a little bit, but that's okay. Tuesday, I had a plan. I fell asleep with the TV on. So this is like a half sleep. I'm kind of subconsciously listening to what's going on. I knew it was 4-1. There's no better feeling than when Gary Cohen is yelling at you to wake you up because something good happened for the Mets, right? When they're on the West Coast, Soto hits the home run against Kershaw. That woke me up. That was the 4th inning. I was up the rest of the way. Now, did the game end the way I wanted it to? No. Did I mutter some words under my breath like, did I just stay up this long to watch Maybe. Wednesday, I was up the whole time. A fun ball game. Great ball game. And then, of course, Thursday, the 4 o'clock game. So, going to hopefully be asleep by maybe 10:30, 11. Maybe I'll watch a couple baseball games before I go to sleep tonight. But, yeah, 9:40 on Saturday. Like, why couldn't we make that, I don't know.
6:40.
6:40 would have been a 4:10 local start in Colorado. Nice darty weather. Coors
Yeah.
Field, great spot. Go to View House before the game. Great drink specials there at Coors Field before the game. 3:10 on Sunday, though.
Yeah.
Which is 3:10 or 3:40? 3:10, right?
3:10.
So it's a 1:10 start. Usually it's 1:40 local. Interesting.
Interesting.
Well, no matter what the start times are, we will be watching. And if we're not, we'll be watching Mets Rewind. And we will be breaking it all down for you. What happens in Colorado, the Mets and the Rockies, a 3-game set. The Mets finishing up this 7-game road trip before they return home for the Nationals and the Rays next week here at Citi Field. An exciting week, by the way. You guys definitely want to be here. Check it all out. We got K-pop night on Tuesday. We got Pride night on Friday. Army's birthday on Saturday. And then, of course, Father's Day here at Citi Field. No better place to bring dad on Sunday. So definitely head to Mets.com/tickets where you can get your tickets for all the exciting Mets action here at Citi Field. Also want to remind you, if you guys aren't going to be here at Citi Field, or if you're not going to be there at Coors Field this weekend and you want to watch the Mets in the best possible conditions, might I insist you go to PC Richard & Son, where you could probably find yourself a brand spanking new TV. You get yourself a good deal, and you will be helped with the best, friendliest, most knowledgeable salespeople. That's what they got there at PC Richard & Son, no matter what you're looking for, whether it is the aforementioned television, a mattress, kitchen appliances, washer, dryer, new AirPods. I need new AirPods because my left AirPod doesn't charge in the case anymore. I have to walk around pressing it down for the magnetic connection to work, which is not that convenient. I might go get myself a new pair of AirPods at PC Richard & Son, and you can get any of the things I mentioned and more. They are the best in the business. They've been doing it since 1909. Hunter.
I was going to say, how long have they been doing it, John?
1909.
All right.
I feel like I've been walking around with my thumb on my left AirPod since 1909 as well. That's not good. It's not convenient as well. I am actually going to go to PC Richard & Son to get myself a new pair of AirPods. You guys should check it out. Please do. Thanks for checking this podcast out. Meet at the Apple. Once again, I am Jonathan Barron. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram at JMB9191. That is Hunter Tabs. You can follow him at Hunter Tabs on all the socials. Yes.
And just make sure that you vote for the Mets for the 2025 All-Star Game.
You know what? Thank you, Hunter, for bringing that up. I messed up. All-Star Game voting is open, and I know New York sports fans.
Just vote. Just vote. I'm going to cut you off.
Thank you.
I'm going to cut you off.
That's 3 strikes.
Just vote. Just vote for the Mets. They deserve it. Francisco Lindor deserves to start for the All-Star team. Pete Alonso deserves to start for the All-Star team. You can't vote for pitchers, but we have 5, 6 guys on this pitching staff who deserve
7,
to be also
8,
set.
if you go in the bullpen as well.
9,
Reed Garrett, Diaz, Brazaban.
Vote for the Mets.
How many times can you vote a day?
You can vote 5 times per day. Oh, and all you have to do, you don't even have to submit your ballot again. You could just click vote again. You don't even have to refill it out. Vote for the Mets. They deserve it. That's all. That's all I have.
And if you don't, you're letting the Mets down and you're letting Hunter down.
I will be sad.
And we don't want that.
I read your comments and I'm sad enough. I will be sad. I will be sad again. So please vote.
You guys want to let this guy down? I don't think so. Anyway, you can check this podcast out on Apple, Spotify, not Google Play, as a commenter mentioned on YouTube. So you can't find it there. You can follow us on the Mets YouTube page. Leave a review, 5-star review, some nice words, any words. We appreciate it. We will read those comments right here on the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. The Mets split in LA, but boy, oh boy, do they prove they can go toe-to-toe with any team in the major leagues. Up next, the Mets in Colorado. We will be right back here to break it all down for you. So until next time, thanks for meeting us at the Apple.